Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Sunday Interview. My guest today is an information and communication technology expert. He is a vibrant young politician, an astute public servant and development enthusiast with a resourceful local and international network. He sits on the board of many businesses across the world. You will be meeting my guest after this time out. I am Azizat Olarua. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Thank you for staying with us. Now, my guest today is an ICT guru and is also the governorship candidate of the Alliance for Democracy in Ogun State. I'm talking about Oluseyi Olufade Olowookere. Thank you for staying with us on the show.
Thank you for having me. Good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon. You look quite young. How old are you?
39 years.
Wow. Are you, perchance, the youngest governorship candidate in the state?
Yes.
Wow. So my guess was right.
Very correct.
Okay, so first off, before we move on to all other questions, how was growing up like for you? Where did you grow up from?
I grew up between Lagos and Ogun State. Interestingly, I spent more time in the part of my maternal grandparents, which is the Ijebu axis of Ogun State. But I went to school, had my primary school and secondary school education here in Lagos State.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So which other schools did you attend?
I attended Ladoke Akintola University of Technology, where I had my first degree in electronics and electrical engineering.
Apart from that, which other thing did you go into? Did you enter ICT by chance, or was it because of what you studied?
Well, I think that it was because of what I studied, because way back in 2002, I was one of the very few in my class to own a computer, and that was the beginning of the rise of the dot-com era, particularly in this part of the world. And my final year project, interestingly, had to do with neural networks, artificial intelligence. I had to design a program that dealt with pattern recognition, which can help with assembly line production. And so and in the final year of elect engineering, you had to choose between power, option, electronics, or communications. Because of the level of development, we didn't have a very robust electronics section. So most of us were left with power or communication. So I chose communication. And apart from the fact that I am naturally curious and adventurous, I think that was the beginning of my interest in technology and ICT.
Which childhood memory do you still hold so dear? Okay,
interestingly, what I hold so dear at those times, we would travel to Ijebu weekends. So I would say I spent about 75 to 80% of my time in Lagos, but every weekend we would have to go home, and it was your typical village setting. And I get that nostalgic feeling when I go around, especially on projects, and even in the course of my consultation, when I go into the villages, the smell of the air is actually different. It's pure. You can hear the bird, you can see the insect. It's what makes me always want to go back to, quote and unquote, what we call village life. I like a lot of green. I think that in some way I am an environmental conservationist. I like green. I like natural habitat and all of that.
What are your hobbies?
My hobbies are simply reading and traveling. I love to travel just for the sake of it. It's exciting, and I find it very educating.
Do you watch sports? If yes, which one do you watch in particular?
I'm a Chelsea fan.
Oh, you're a football fan?
Yes.
Why Chelsea?
Well, funny, I can't remember vividly why or how.
Chelsea fan?
No, not really. I've been a fan now for almost a decade, okay. And I just talk to it because, I don't know, maybe because I like the color blue.
When did you get married and how did you meet your wife? Tell me the story behind it.
All right. Well, I actually met her in church.
Okay.
I was a church worker. She was one of those very diligent workers who was around in church, and then we got talking and we connected, and sometimes she would tease me. I remember the day I made up my mind that this is going to be the young lady. It was at a prayer meeting, and we were all praying.
At a prayer meeting?
Yes.
And you still noticed her. You had one eye closed, another eye open.
Oh yeah, So and so that happened. We got talking, and this happened in Abuja.
Okay.
And my wedding was quite interesting because, like I said, I like.
When did you get married?
2010.
Oh.
I like simplicity. I thought I didn't want a crowd. Left to me, I just wanted a wedding of two of us. We just do it and then get on with our life. I thought that the marriage was more important than the wedding, the event, because, in this part of the world, a lot of us are all about big events and all that. So in order to sort of set comfortable filters so that people will have a good excuse not to attend my wedding, I fixed my wedding for a weekday. Wednesday.
Wow.
Yes, 4 p.m. And interestingly, on that day, I still went to work. I went on a site inspection, and so I recall one of my friends and brothers in church who saw me on a site that I was inspecting. That was about 1 p.m. Now, don't forget, my wedding is in 3 hours' time, and we greeted and all of that. And so I just went from there to the hotel, changed, and then went to church, had the wedding and the reception. We planned for 200 people, and even on that day, we had over 400 people. That's on a weekday in Abuja. And
so the plan didn't work after all?
It didn't work after all because, so I imagine that if we had it on a Saturday, we'd probably have had 1,000 people or something. So, but the interesting thing is, so on Sunday when we were doing Thanksgiving, the brother called me and said, young man, you mean you got married the day I saw you working? I said, well, yeah, that's me. So,
what about your kids?
Well, they're fine. They live abroad with my wife.
Oh, she's not in the country?
Yeah, she's schooling in the UK.
What's the most romantic thing that you've done for Madame?
Chai, romantic. Well, she will say that I am quite unromantic, but I think that I try to, do everything for her. An example is, shut down the day and say, hey, look, babe, today I'm going to cook, serve you, do your meals, and just make sure you're fine, you're happy. And also having to look after the kid. When we had my daughter, she had to go to work, and being a business owner, my office was just on the ground floor of my house. So I would, take care of the baby all day, let her have her time. And I recall one day she got back from work with her friend, and she saw me in the courts. I was in my suit and all that, so she saw me in the baby courts, cuddled up, playing with my baby, and she was like, oh, and social media took pictures and all of that.
So what is your favorite meal?
I like jollof rice with salad and dodo.
Oh, I was expecting you to say a pounded yam. You were suggesting it to me earlier.
I take them once in a while. I'm very fussy with meals, so I like to just take something that is filling and balanced and all of that.
So with all your busy schedules, how do you relax? And how often do you relax?
Well, I try to just have what you can call solo time, where you just reflect and just meditate, be without your phones, don't talk to anybody, and just generally chill. And then I also like to sleep, so those two things help me relax, and sometimes have some really good soft jazz music playing in the background, or the old schools of Chief Ebenezer Obey and the likes. They help me relax and reflect, and so that's how I relax.
Okay, so who is your favorite musician? You already mentioned liking jazz and Ebenezer Obey's songs. Is he your favorite musician?
Yes, he speaks a lot of wisdom and deep stuff, so that I love to hear, and followed by King Sunny Ade. Yeah.
So if I asked you to sing for me right now, which song would you sing?
Well, the one that easily comes to mind was, it's something I like to just have playing in the car when I'm going out or traveling is Baba wa Eledumare, Baba for no wa. You know, it's very.
That's it. I was expecting you to sing at this.
I really love. I'm for loki. You know,
Okay.
you got it. Thank you for that.
Okay, let's now, we have got to the truth syndrome segment. I just wanted to answer, I'm going to ask you a question. Well, there are three questions in the same question. So you either answer yes, no, 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 yes, yes, no,
Yes, no, no, no,
depending
no, yes. Okay.
on
That sounds like some binary
whatever,
combination.
whatever, yeah, but you're an ICT expert, so you understand. So I want to know, do you drink alcohol? Do you smoke? Do you womanize?
Yes, no, no.
Yes, no, no. So you drink?
Occasionally.
Okay.
Very occasionally. Occasionally. I'll probably have a glass of wine once in a month or two. Yeah.
Red wine?
Yeah,
White
red wine. Red or white?
Multiple colored wine?
No,
Anything like that?
it's red or wine.
Okay. Now, if you could change just one thing in your personality, what would it be?
I would have wished to be a pilot or the military, because I think that I have a very soft spot for national service, which is why I get very sensitive and emotional when issues of our national men in the Nigerian Armed Forces come up, especially as it relates to their welfare. It gets very touching for me because I've seen, I had a very teary experience. One day I was traveling somewhere within the United States, and then there were about 20 or 30, I think, Air Force officers on board. And apart from the fact that the pilot had to acknowledge them whilst we were airborne, when we landed, he did request all the passengers to please stay in their seats and let these men of the armed forces walk out first. And we had to keep clapping for them until they all stepped out. And for me, I thought that was very patriotic. I thought that was so why wouldn't they give their life for their country? You know, so I think that as Nigerians, and so it makes me want to be in their shoes and hopefully change things that will make the Nigerian citizens begin to believe in them more, because I think it's a two-way thing. There are certain things that have been sort of messed up along the way that makes Nigerian citizens lose faith in our military or the police, but that has to change because they're doing so much to keep all of us safe.
Indeed, absolutely. Nigerian soldiers are very gallant.
Yeah.
I still have some more questions for you, but we'll just have to go on a short break at this point.
Thank you.
Stay with us. My guest is still Oluseyi Olufade Olowookere, the governorship candidate of the AD in Ogun State. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
Welcome back. My guest is still Oluseyi Olufade Olowookere, the governorship candidate of the Alliance for Democracy in Ogun State. Thank you for staying with us.
Thank you for having me.
Now, you're 39 years old, and of course, like you already told me, the youngest candidates have gone in for the top job in Ogun State. Why the interest? You're doing so well in private business.
Three responses I have to that. The first thing is that, like Plato said, that the penalty for not participating in politics is that you would have inferior people govern over you. And as young people growing up and having worked in the public sector for about 7.5 years, I have seen the sides, almost all the sides of politics and public service delivery and governance. And I have come to realize that truly, if we have a sufficient quantity or number of good people in that space, Nigeria would actually get better. What has happened is people like you and I have left that space, quote and unquote, to other people who do not know better, and you cannot give what you don't have. So the first reason is that I got triggered, and I use the word trigger carefully, and I could explain that later, to change that narrative, to begin to give people more options. It takes me to the second thing, which is that I have taken a close study, both scientific, data and all of that. I am a big data person. I love to mine data. and also words on the street, and realized that a lot of our political ecosystems need more options, need better options. And the case in point is Ogun State. So constitutionally, I can contest in Abuja FCT because I've lived there for many years. I've got business there. I mean, I can't contest in Lagos because I've lived in Lagos. I mean, by origin, I am from Ogun State. So I thought, look, let me go home because I do know that my dad gave a lot to Ogun State, and I do know that we've got a huge family there. So I decided to, on Ile Latin Kesharode, you know, so I decided to come back home and give the people of Ogun State a better option, because, you know, it is said that when the preferable is not available, the available becomes preferable. So lest we have that situation in Ogun State, I decided to put myself forward, offer myself as an available, preferable option. I mean, if that's the correct thing to say.
Okay. But why not contest for the House of Assembly seat instead in Ogun State? You know, because you're practically a greenhorn in Ogun politics.
Yeah.
Why the governorship seat?
Yes. So the thinking here is that where do you think you can be of best impact? Where do you think you can be of optimal value to the people? And given my experience of almost 16 years, half and half in the public and private sector, I studied the space and realized that the best place to be for Ogun State and for Nigeria is to be the governor. And yes, I've heard people tell me, even some of my friends in my high school group say, oh, you know, like so person, why don't you go and start from, you know? But the thing is that in terms of public service, I've paid some dues. I mean, I started as a technical assistant and project implementation assistant in public service in the Federal Capital Territory Administration way back in 2003. I did that for about 4.5 years, and then I went on to be an assistant to a governor about a decade later. So in terms of public service, I think I've paid some dues. Our forefathers, our leaders, Papa Awo and co, they were younger than me when they led active political movements in this country. And even the current president was way younger when he was the head of state. So why must we limit ourselves now? So, but one of the things we've also made sure is that I am not gone in to just be the governor alone. We want to have a holistic, formidable team across board, which is why the Alliance for Democracy in Ogun State has worked to ensure that all the places have been filled. So we have viable candidates for 25 out of the 26 House of Assembly seats. We have candidates for 9 out of the 9 House of Representative seats, and same with the senatorial slot, because I think that governance is about collaboration. So I tell people that, look, let's not just focus on the governorship candidate alone. In fact, I had the conversation with the state chairman some minutes ago too, because they tend to seem to make it all about the governor. I said, no, I need teammates. I need people who will be able to be on the same page with me, you know, a lot of the time in the state assembly, so that we can pass laws that would impact the well-being, the welfare of the people. And I also want people that can share similar ideals in Abuja that can speak on our behalf, you know. So, and this has been our approach in the Alliance for Democracy, and then we have worked a formidable structure around this.
And why do you think the Alliance for Democracy is the platform to get all this done? Because it started so well during the Fourth Republic, but somehow lost popularity. Why do you think this time around the AD is going to come showing?
So I think, and everyone should mark my words, that the Alliance for Democracy is that sleeping giant, quote unquote, that is coming to be again. It will be interesting to ask the governors who were on the platform of Alliance for Democracy in the Fourth Republic why they have either refused or been unable to kill the party. Information has it that even when they were trying to delist parties, the former INEC chairman was trying to delist party, I think in 2014, Alliance for Democracy did not meet the requirement, but he left the party because he knows the history of the party. I mean, if you trace back, it has some of his roots and ideologies in the action group. the Papa Awo ideals. And I have taken time to study the manifesto. And, like I said, on the day I was affirmed as the candidate of the party on the 1st of October, I said, look, I have looked around, and I think Alliance for Democracy has, if not the only one, is one of the only few parties that has a very pure soul. It is about the people. And I think that the people who conceived the manifesto of the party really had the heart of the people, So the reason why some people may have jumped ship or left it at some point or the other would have been largely about their idiosyncrasies or their own interest. They say politics is about permanent interest, selfish interest, but I think we want to change the narrative to begin to make it about the interest of the people around.
It seems you've been in the trenches, really learning from the background.
Yeah.
You served with the Kaduna State government
for
about 9 months, even without pay.
Yeah.
Why did you decide to do that? Owing to the fact that Nigerians see political positions, opportunity to serve in any government, an opportunity somehow to milk something to the side.
So my life generally has been that of blessing and wealth. I mean, even though I can arguably say I'm a hustler, I'm a social or serial entrepreneur, but compared to the number of my friends, I don't think I have made half as much the monies, because for me, I'm always about the value. The reason I chose to do it pro bono was because at the time I thought that the Kaduna State government had happened or had been lucky to elect a good government, someone who's most likely and had a good potential to give them good governance and deliver good public value. And for that reason, having been with him before and maintained the relationship all the years, I thought that I should give all of the support. And occasionally, members of his team and himself would reach out to me and say, "Oh, Oluseyi, can you send us a concept note or something of this project we did in FCT then?" Because it was all about urban reformation. It was all about restoring the state. It was all about infrastructure development and all that. And I had a good hang of this thing. So that happened. And, at some point, it became clear that my intervention was required. So I would fly in. Then I was still very active in my business in Dubai. So I'll fly in almost every week to provide support. So sometimes I come for 3 days, and then after a while I was given accommodation. Then 3 days becomes 2 weeks because there was just so much to do. And I am one person that when I set my focus on something to deliver results, I give it my all. So I just didn't care about the money. I wasn't being paid anything. I only was given accommodation. So I catered for myself, and I did it just because I wanted him, the governor, to succeed. And I wanted a chance to impact the people. And then personally, I wanted to learn public service, governance again. So I thought it was an opportunity to learn. It was an opportunity to interact with the civil service. It was an opportunity to walk through the bureaucracies of government again. And so I did that for about 9 months. And of course, it became too awkward, such that people were wondering, who is this Sheyi? They would just call me Sheyi Government House. So that had to be formalized, and then so I took on the job for about another 1.5 to 2 years before I left.
Okay, so what have you got to offer Ogun people? In short, why should they vote for you?
Why Ogun people should vote for me is for 2 reasons. The day, when I talked about trigger earlier, one of the things, amongst many reasons, that finally tipped me to saying, look, you know what, I'm going to pitch my heart in this ring, is one day I received a short list of the potential successors of the current governor. There were 12 names. I saw the names, read the profiles, saw their ages, and I was angry. I said to myself, no, Ogun State deserves better. Not this time, not again. It was the same set of, apart from the fact that they are old, I mean, in this age and time, 21st century, I think that government is about energy, is about innovation, is about technology. And yes, experience. I give all due respect to experience, which you cannot buy. It's about age, it's about being around long enough. But they have their role to play, not in leading governments anymore. The trend around the world now is young people are taking over the space. And in my engagements with the governor, interestingly, the day I met him was the day after the Not Too Young to Run bill was signed. And he shook me and he was like, ah, you were Kilofedish, president, you know, and we laughed about it. He said, that you these young people, you think it's easy. And then there was someone beside him who said, my boy, that when I made him commissioner, he had all black hair. Look at him, he's all gray. And I laughed. And then my take about governance is there's a place for mentorship. There's a place for allowing people who have gone ahead of you to go well and forward. But I think the challenge in the Nigerian space is, you know, it's like a relay race. You know, the people ahead of us are refusing to hand over the baton. But what is happening is these guys are moving too fast. In fact, they're setting barriers, making it impossible for us to jump it. I mean, to reach them, to take that baton. And like one of the political leaders in Lagos said, he said, you know, power or politics is not served a la carte. You have to take it. So I think that this time around, Ogun State deserves the best. And I think that I have the best in terms of competence, youthfulness, experience, exposure, and the network to which is our theme. You know, I thought about it one day and I said, and because Ogun has huge potentials. And, you know, like I said earlier, it is like a sleeping giant, you know, that must be awakened. You know, I usually compare it to the New York, New Jersey scenario in the United States. Lagos is very good, very strategic to our country. I think that Ogun State must take its place in terms of its comparative advantage to complement what Lagos is doing for itself and for Nigeria. And I don't think that has been sufficiently achieved. And what I have to offer is that which will enable us achieve that. It's a different narrative outside the old type of politicking or politics or tight style of governance that we have seen up until this moment.
All right, so finally, a message to the people.
My message to the Ogun people is that this is about the future and the generation unborn in Ogun State. And we need to move away from, first and foremost, money politics. We need to begin to look beyond all of the parochial, base, mediocre issues to who can best deliver public value. So as an Ogun State indigene or citizen or resident, I want them to sit down, sit back, and, you know, look at all of us in the array and think for themselves who can ensure that their child will get good education, like our forefathers do. It's sad in Ogun State. Who can ensure that that woman that goes to the hospital, the nearest primary healthcare center, has a high chance of getting delivered safe and sound? That is reducing the maternal mortality rate. Who can ensure that the roads in Agbole Akute, you know, the roads in Ota, you know, the road in Ijebu, Ijebu and all that gets fixed so that farmers can access their farms, so that about the 36% of Ogun State residents who live in rented apartments have better access to their houses. And so this is how I want them to begin to think. Not about someone who has done it over and over again, or someone who's from the big party, or someone who's been sponsored. Right now it is about the Ogo of Ogun. How do we make the best out of Ogun State?
Thank you very much, and thank you for featuring on our show today.
Thank you for having me.
And that's it on this week's edition of the Sunday Interview. My guest was Oluseyi Olufade Olowookere, an ICT expert, social entrepreneur, and the governorship candidate of the Alliance for Democracy in Ogun State, the youngest among them. For all your inquiries, you can send all of them to the Sunday Interview at tvcnews.tv. Until I come your way next week, I am Azizat Olalua. Bye for now.